welcome to Thermomixing Adventures. My name is Lisa Keegan and we are going to make some fancy crackers today. Now you know the crackers you can buy in the supermarket that are all lined up nicely in their container. They cost about somewhere between $4.50 and $6.50, sometimes more, and they're kind of a gourmet style cracker. That is what I'm going to show you today to make in your Thermomix really easily, quickly with what you've got. So come along today and I'll show you how to do it. It is a manual recipe, so you may want a pen and paper handy or watch the replay to cook along later. So the first thing you're going to do is preheat an oven, because this is a two-step process where we've actually got to cook once and we then come back later and cook twice. First thing we need to do is preheat the oven to 180 degrees. Then you're going to need your scales on your Thermomix, and we're going to start putting in our first lot of ingredients. First thing we're going to put in is some milk. So we've got 250 grams, which is a cup. If you're kind of thinking in old school ways before a Thermomix, how much is it? It's a cup. 250 grams is a cup. Let's see. Am I close? I am. Excellent. All right, so 250 of that. Then we need some sugar. Okay, it has a little bit of sugar, although it does have spices, so this is quite savory. The beautiful thing about this recipe is you could probably go either way with it. You could actually go fully sweet, fully savory, or somewhere in between. I reckon you've got quite a few options here as far as what you put into it. So 50 grams of sugar, in it goes. Oh, 56, that'll do. Then we're going to add into it some yogurt. Now, if you are dairy-free, you can actually do this dairy-free as well. You can use coconut cream or a nut milk instead of the milk we've put in. Instead of yogurt, you can use a coconut yogurt or an almond-based yogurt. You've really got quite a few options there. You do not have to use the dairy-based stuff. There is no butter in this recipe, and I'm going to make it gluten-free today, so it really is for everybody. Let me just grab out, so my beautiful kitchen toolkit. I've spoke of it before during this series. It is amazing. It's a great complement to your Thermomix, and I love this scoop. I use, actually, probably the scissors I use the most. Actually, I use it all, to be honest. The three knives are amazing. They're so sharp. They're made of collagen steel, the same stuff your blades are made out of. Love the scoop. Okay, it's obviously for ice cream, but I use it for absolutely everything. We're putting into the machine now 60 grams of yogurt. I made my homemade yogurt. Okay, there's videos on YouTube that I put together for that. Go check them out. In that goes 70 grams today. We're going heavy-handed. That's okay. When you've got a Thermomix, it's okay to kind of just roll with whatever goes in there. So now we're going to put that on 10 seconds, speed 4. We're going to combine that through for a moment. Mix all those wet ingredients together. So speed 4, 10 seconds, off it goes. Then what you're going to need are some of the spices and flours. They're going to come in next to the machine. So I forgot that I wasn't putting a timer on. That was 10 seconds, spot on. So we're going to now bring up the scales and we're putting in our flour. Now I told you I was going to use gluten-free. If you're not gluten-free, just use ordinary plain flour. I'm putting in 150 grams of gluten-free flour. Use your 150 grams of normal flour. Okay, if you don't have plain flour on hand, but you've got your baker's flour for your bread making, use that. It will work just as well in this recipe. Then we're going to add now sultanas, cranberries, chopped up apricots, chopped up dates. I've actually got dehydrated apple. So we're really getting into preserving our food around here. We grow a fair chunk of our own these days. Although I've got to say, honestly, this is actually because we accidentally ordered too many apples. So I was like, what do I do with it? So some of them you would have seen on the preserving series I did, where we did them into pickled apples. Some of them I dehydrated. I'm thinking I probably should have chopped them up beforehand, but you know how I roll, guys. Those of you who've been watching along for a while, we just kind of make it up. So tear it back. I forgot to do that. We're putting in 100 grams. I'm just going to chuck it in and hope it works out. I presume they'll work out. I don't actually know. I've never done this before like this. Normally sultanas, cranberries, chopped up apricots. Probably could chop these up, but I don't like doing those extra things if I don't have to. Normally when I start using a Thermomix, my kids come running and go, Mum, what are we making? When can we eat it? So I really don't have the time usually to kind of fuss around on things like that. So we'll just give this a go and I'll tell you what I'd change later. So next up we need some baking powder. We need 3 teaspoons. Now teaspoons is the small one. I'm just guesstimating my teaspoon's a massive teaspoon today. So I'm just guessing. And the beauty thing of it does work. When you guess, it works. So I love that. All right, now we get into our spices and we are putting, actually no we don't, we've got oats and seeds. So we've got 80 grams of whatever you want. So I've got 50 grams of oats and I've got 30 grams of seeds. It honestly can be 80 grams of whatever your preference. If you want the beautiful ones that have the pepitas with the green in it, put some pepitas, sunflower, sesame, whatever you want. If you can't do oats because you are celiac and you can't get the GF oats, then don't put them in, just put more seeds in. So it is a great option. You could even chop up nuts and put into that. Okay, so 80 grams of, 90 grams on mine of something. Okay, now we're getting into our spices. So the first thing we need is some cinnamon. Now, I do think that the cinnamon, the spices you can play with. You can make these your own and kind of up and down your preferences as you like and make them more savory with some more savory spices and more sweet with the sweeter ones. This biscuit though, I find when you make it as per the recipe can go either way. You can be putting it with cheese or you can be putting it with a cream cheese sweet dip or like the savory pestos, and it goes both ways really nicely. Okay, some nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon, not as much nutmeg. You'll notice most recipes have less nutmeg, normally half than you do cinnamon. Has quite a significant taste, doesn't it? Now we need 1/2 teaspoon of thyme and some salt and pepper, and we are actually done. This is going to mix through and we're going to end up with like a thick cake batter, and then we're going to put it into a loaf tin, which is a little peculiar, I know, but especially when we're going to make biscuits out of them, or when I say biscuits, cracker style biscuits out of them. But that's what we do because we're then going to cook it, slice it, and then cook it again. So we're going to mix this. Normally I do reverse. If I had the sultanas, the cranberries, the seeds, I want them to stay intact, I do have those chunks of apples. So I'm going to just change it. So if you're following along, you've got cranberries and seeds and those sorts of things, put yours on reverse speed 4. But I am going to go forwards because I want those apples to be a little bit diced. Okay, because I was cheating and I didn't go the other way. It's going to take 5 seconds. 5 seconds. It's a bit bouncy. Guys, excuse the bounciness. I am on a table that is not a bench. Okay, so I do get more movement here. It is like a bar table, and so you will not find that on your kitchen bench. I can guarantee it. So that was those apples rattling around in there. I'm going to show you what this looks like, and it has done a pretty good job of dicing a lot of them up. Have a look. Ugh. There you go. You can see some of those apples up the back there. Let's do another little bit longer. Now you should be done. If you have done cranberries and sultanas, you're not trying to dice up like I am, yours will be done. But let's go up to speed 4 again. Give it another couple of seconds. There we go. So 20 seconds in total. So that was 10. Was it 10 earlier and 10 now? I think that's it. Like that's not too shabby, right? So now what you need to do is you need to have yourself a loaf tin of some sort with some baking paper lined in it, and we're going to now just spread this in. We need a flat top on it. Now you can do this in lots of different things. I've done it in little mini loaves before where then I've sliced it side on and made little crackers like that. You can just about do it in anything that gives you the shape, I guess, that you want at the end to cut that up. That's actually come out much better. So that you can see it's got a bit of texture, but that's good. So now I'm just putting this in. I'm sorry I have it reversed at the moment. Not very coordinated the other way around. And there are still a few chunks of apples. You know, in hindsight, probably should have taken the extra couple of seconds to chop them by hand, but that's okay. When I chop through this from frozen, they will actually just become part of the mix, and that's going to be perfectly fine. So now what happens is we put a flat top on the top of this because we want it to be flat on the top for cutting later. Just push it out and you'll see it's like a thickened batter. Bit like banana bread is what it reminds me of. Give it a few little quick taps and I'll show you what that looks like. There it is. It is runny enough that if I hold it for too long one way, it's going to slide out of the container. So I'm not going to do that. So now what we're doing is this is going into a 180-degree oven for about 25 minutes. You may need to add 5 or 10 minutes more, especially if you've got a deep container. All right, so it really depends on how thick your cake mix is as to whether it needs longer. Do check it with a skewer. And then when you finally get it out of the oven and it's ready to go, you need to let it cool on a bench until it's room temperature. Then cover it with something, wrap it in some Glad wrap, cling wrap, something like that, and then freeze it. for at least 3 hours. Now what that does is it allows this mix that is a bit like a dense, I'm going to say fruit cake is what it reminds me of, my mum's Christmas cakes. So that's what it reminds me of. It's going to be like that dense thing, and it allows you then to be able to get it out of the freezer, use a decent bread knife and slice it into little thin bits, about that 2 to 3 mil width, like you would normally on the gourmet crackers that have cost you $6 or $7 at the supermarket potentially. Then we're going to put it back in the oven and recook it. So I will come back and show you some pictures out of the oven. I will then show you some cutting, and then I'll show you the cooking and the final product. So mine's going into the oven now for about 25 minutes, and I'll be back later to show you some more pictures. Take care and have a go at this, and I'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back. We have our loaf and it's come out of the oven. It's gone onto the bench to cool, then into the freezer, and it's been in there for a good couple of hours. 3 hours is the minimum, and I reckon it's been pretty much spot on 3 hours. What we're going to do now is we're going to slice this into our beautiful little strips that become our, I guess you could call them wafers, to be those gourmet crackers. So let's just get this paper off, this baking paper, and then let's cut it up. It smells amazing. You can smell those spices in there. Now, if it's too soft to cut, it means it needs to go back in the freezer if it starts crumbling, because remember, it is like a cake that when we cook. Now, your oven does need to be right now on 120 degrees, so a low oven. It's going to cook for another 50 minutes to an hour to crisp up. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. I've got my knife out of my kitchen toolkit. I've made mention of the kitchen toolkit already. And yes, we're going to use that to now slice this up. So we want it to be nice and thin. I am going to have to cut off the end though, because we're not going to be able to successfully do that. Let's just spin around here and I'll show you. Okay, so let's see how ready this is. Otherwise, I may be coming back to redo in a moment later with you. Look at that beautiful, you can see that apple in there. So we're looking for thin bits because they're going to be those crackers, the gourmet crackers. So this is what we're looking for, is nice thin cuts. You might have a knife with a guide on it and be able to use that, maybe even an electric knife to get really nice consistency with it. That's not too bad. I can keep cutting at that. You can see it's not frozen. You can do it from frozen. This can be wrapped up in Glad wrap and left in the freezer until you're ready to use it. So you could actually have this sitting in there waiting for the next time you need some for your next entertaining. And just as long as you've got an hour's notice, in the oven they go. They do not take long to cool because they're so thin. So once you get them out the oven, they're fine. Now, that doesn't matter if they touch on the tray, because what we're doing here ultimately is drying them out. So it doesn't particularly matter if they are going to touch each other. They're already cooked. It is that drying out process. They can't sit on top of each other, but side by side touching is not an issue. So I'm just going to keep slicing these up. You'll see the final product when it's done. The photos are going to be on shortly for you to see that, but give this a go. Love to know your combos, and I'd love to know how you go with it. Do you enjoy it? Did it work out amazing? If you've got troubles along the way, jump over to my website, thermixadventures.com.au, and send me an email or grab my details and give me a call so I can step you through and problem solve any challenges you're having with your thermomixing along the way. Regardless of which model, I'm here to support you to get the very most out of it. So don't be a stranger, okay? Love to know that you are upskilling more and more with your Thermomix. By the way, this recipe is part of my cheese course as well, so do go over and check out my cheese course. If you like this cook-along style tutorial, getting more out of your Thermomix, jump over and check that out as well. I'll put the link here as well for that. So otherwise, I'm going to keep cutting. I'm going to get these in the oven. They'll be ready in 50 minutes to put in the grazing board. So, grazing box. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the next video. And if I can help with anything, do reach out, and take care till next time. Bye for now.